The headlines. Britain's Prime Minister faces more calls to resign from his own party after admitting he attended a Downing Street drinks gathering at the height of COVID lockdown in May 2020.
I regret the way the event I have described was handled. I bitterly regret it and wish that we could have done things differently. And I have and will continue to apologise for what we did.
Prince Andrew fails to get a civil case dismissed in the US, which accuses him of sexually assaulting a teenage girl. He's consistently denied the allegations against him. Also in the programme, the tennis star Novak Djokovic admits making mistakes on his paperwork needed to enter Australia. Russia and NATO hold their first face-to-face talks in 2 years as tensions remain high over the build-up of Russian troops on the border with Ukraine. And why so many Chinese students are still heading abroad for their studies despite the pandemic. Meanwhile, in other stories for you today, the Nigerian government has lifted its ban on Twitter 7 months after it clamped down on the social media platform site in the country. The government suspended Twitter's operations in June last year, accusing it of double standards and supporting secessionists in the country. This was after the microblogging service deleted a controversial tweet by the president. More stories for you now from other parts of the world. What's making headlines there too? In the United States, it's announced its first sanctions on North Korea over the country's weapons program. North Korea has recently launched a series of missiles, including 2 in the past week. Sanctions target a number of North Koreans and a Russian firm said to be responsible for procuring goods for weapons. Prosecutors in France say they've made an arrest in connection with the murder of 3 British holidaymakers and a French cyclist in the Alps 10 years ago. Saad Al-Hili and his wife Iqbal from Surrey were shot dead in September 2012, along with Mrs. Al-Hili's mother. A French cyclist, Sylvain Mollier, was found dead at the scene. The Al-Hili's young daughters were found alive near the vehicle. Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam has said the territory is to introduce its own national security legislation to complement a similar law imposed by Beijing 2 years ago. She made the comments at the first session of Hong Kong's legislature since elections last month. Political freedoms have been severely curtailed in Hong Kong since Beijing's legislation, came into force, and Mrs. Lam's statement raises the prospect that restrictions could be further tightened.